What's up, IDP Army? It's your man, Jordan Rains, back again at 50 Shades of Drunk. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, follow the IDP Army on Twitter. We are back. This is another episode of the IDP Army podcast. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. We're going to be talking some more linebacker rankings. We just did the top 5 last week, or on the last show. We're going to do 5 more. We're going to do another 5 in a couple of days. Got some sleepers coming for you. Yeah, 2022 fantasy football season is here. It's basically here. We're in it. So, gonna break down these rankings, gonna talk with y'all, give y'all some information. We're gonna have a good show, and I'm gonna get you out of here. All right, IDP Army, thanks for joining me. Like I said, today we're going to finish our top 10 linebackers. Before we do that, just want to let you guys know a little update on me. I'm transitioning to fantasy football content and just content creation and operating, media and stuff like that full time. So if you have not joined the Patreon, it would mean a lot to me if you did. If you have not bought any of our merch, it would mean a lot to me if you did. The links for that's in the description. It's a lot of time and effort, energy to get this information together. I'm happy to do it. Been doing it for 3 years. But yeah, if you guys could just feed back into us, myself and the offensive points boys and Bomber, and we will continue to feed back into you. It would mean a lot. So just check that stuff out. Links in the description, all that. But let's give you what you're really here for today. The content, the good stuff. Nothing too crazy. Like I said, we're just going over the top 10 linebackers. I'll quickly read off our top 5 linebackers from last show. We had Micah Parsons at 1, Roquan Smith at 2, Devin White 3, Jordan Brooks 4, and Darius Leonard came in at 5. Leonard being at 5, a little controversial, but he has, surgery and back injury issues. Anyway, check out that video. It should be 1 or 2 below this one on the show, on the channel, whatever you want to do. And let us know what you think about those rankings, how you would change them up or whatever. Probably some guys this next set that you'll be familiar with, maybe thought would have made that list. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and just kind of jump right into it. I'm trying to think if there's any other announcements I have. Not really, just you guys know what to do. Fantasy football season's here. Please don't hesitate to reach out on Twitter. Don't hesitate to leave comments on the channel, positive or negative. We love feedback and we're constantly evolving and we want to hear from you. Actually, in one of our the IDP Alpha chat that's on Twitter, if you want to get added to that, a guy, Vinny Montana, mentioned that he said, you guys put out top 5 linebackers. That's not really much. Okay, Vinny, that's fair. It is 5 linebackers. But you got to start somewhere, and he said, put out a big list. We have a big list. It's the ultimate IDP index. It's got 200 different players on it. It's got contract information. It's got production profiles. It's tiered rankings. It's got years and years and years of information, all hand built. These 2 hands manually entered every piece of data in there, millions of pieces of data. And I did some of it wrong the first time, 700, 800, 300 of them. Of the production profiles, did them wrong, had to redo them again. Hours and hours and hours of my life got dumped into that. It's a great product. I stand by it. If you want a big list, hop on over there, patreon.com/the IDP Army. But we're going to give you a short list here on the channel. So like I said, there was our top 5 linebackers: Parsons, Roquan, White, Brooks, and Darius Leonard. So let's go ahead and talk about linebacker number 6 for us. And before we jump into that too, not really much news to talk about per se. I glanced at it before we jumped on, but there's really nothing to talk about. So I'm not even going to bring it up. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Linebacker 6 for me, myself right now at the IDP Army. Guy that I'm shocked didn't make the top 5, but it just didn't happen this time. But I'm going to go ahead and bring him up. That is Bobby Wagner, now 31 years old, has found himself leaving the Seattle Seahawks and is on the Rams, former nemesis, shall we say. Gets a pretty good deal, 5 years, up to $65 million. Typical Rams deal, a lot of money, big player, well-known, kind of a franchise player in and of himself. One of the best linebackers in the league. It's kind of crazy. This last year, he came off a career-high 170 tackles, and it wasn't even enough to lead his own team in tackles. Jordan Brooks, who came in our top 5 list, was actually just ahead of him in total tackles by about 20, and ahead of him by 7 or 8. Let me see here. I can see exact number. He was ahead of him by 11, it looks like, in solos. So both very productive players. Bobby Wagner just finds himself on a new team. 31 years old. I'm not too worried about that. We've seen older linebackers be very productive. Who's the guy I'm thinking of right now? Mike or Davis. You'll know who I'm talking about. He played for the Chargers a couple years ago. I played for the Panthers before. I apologize, Mr. Davis. I can't think of your last name, but he's a beast. He was, averaging 10, 11 tackles at like 33, 34 years old. There's other linebackers on this list that are going to come in a little bit older. Why am I okay with Bobby Wagner? One, he got paid. Two, we know that the advanced stats are kind of always there for him. Points per snap, even at 31 years old, came in this last year at 0.27. Still an elite number. I'm going to pull up his production profile here real quick from the index. So, and you will notice if you look at the impact plays, so it's this red right below the top right-hand corner, says impact plays 11. That's pretty low for Bobby Wagner, especially on an 1,100 snap count season. So we'll just slide over to 2020 just to compare. 19. Still not world beater numbers, but that's more on par with what we've come to expect from Bobby Wagner in the impact play department. Let's slide back to 2019, 19 there, 2018, 23. So the impact plays for Bobby Wagner this last year did come down a little. But overall, it doesn't really mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things because he was able to come through with 170 tackles and make a difference. He was able to compensate for the lack of 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.6 point plays, have a few more 1 and 2 point plays. So Bobby Wagner, linebacker 6, now playing for the Rams. Should be a good season for him. There's a very good chance he finishes as a top 5 linebacker. I'm not fading him. I feel like six. Some people might call it a fade. It's not. So our linebacker 6 going into the season is Bobby Wagner. Let's go ahead and slide over to our linebacker 7 this year. That's Foye Oluokun. All right. Now, this is a guy that has, I'm saying it. This is a guy. Now, here's a guy. No, Foye Oluokun really is a guy. Came into the league with the Falcons, backup player, special teamer, et cetera, but he's pushed his way onto the field. And this year is actually the second season that he has finished in the top 12 at linebacker. I have him ranked this year at linebacker 7. I think that's a great spot for him. He's coming off a year where he led the league in total combined tackles, 192 combined tackles, 3 interceptions as well, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. His points per snap higher than Bobby Wagner's this year, .31. Impact play rate, not obscenely high. It wasn't a huge impact play season for him. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pull up his production profile here. 16 impact plays. Not a world-beating season. Again, 1,100 snaps. A lot of his points did come from the tackles. That's totally fine, though. He can have a few less tackles this next year and still make up those extra points in impact plays because we know he can be an impact player. Going back last year on 200-ish fewer snaps, almost the same number of impact plays, and another top 12 season. So Foye Oluokun is now on the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a good spot for any linebacker to be. It should be plenty of time on the field playing that defense. You know what I'm saying? We know his tackle rate is very high. What we got here, 16.71. Actually, let's take a look at his year over year. 16.71 in 2021, 13 in 2020, 19 in 2019, 17 in 2018. So he keeps a pretty above average, pretty high tackle rate. Love it. That's what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like that's your baseline scoring. We have seen him come through with forced fumbles before. We've seen him come through with sacks, other things. But if you can just look right here on this graphic I have real quick, just look at the tackle numbers he was putting up. He had more double-digit tackle games than others, number one. But then look at the scores corresponding to that. That is an extremely high floor. He had one single-digit game all season. Love that. Linebacker 7, and I know that his ranking is pretty high now in the fantasy world, but just give it some time. I wouldn't go overpaying for him because I think you're going to be able to. The name Foye Oluokun doesn't pull a lot of respect. I hate to be that guy, not yet. So keep an eye out for him. Maybe make a move for him if you can, because you're going to get a good linebacker on a team that's in a good situation to produce. So coming in at number 7, Jaguars new linebacker Foye Oluokun. We love him around here. All right, we're going to talk about our linebacker 8 going into the year. This is Devondre Campbell. Loved Devondre Campbell last year. If you guys watched the sleeper series I did 3 videos on IDP sleepers. Each one had 7 players in it. was a pretty good series. I ended up nailing some guys. Some didn't pull through, but I had Trevon Diggs was one of my sleepers, Devondre Campbell, Jordan Brooks, Logan Wilson. Several guys that had phenomenal seasons were in that sleeper list. I actually put together my first 7 sleeper list for this year yesterday. So that video, don't know if I'm going to put it on the channel today, tomorrow, or the following day, because we do have a lot of content streaming out right now. Speaking of which, go check out. We just did our AFC North review. So you're going to get 4 different team reviews there. They all have timestamps, offense, defense, and it's myself and the offensive points boys. So it's not just me rambling on. You're going to get some, more conversational stuff, but good content there. But circling back to Devondre Campbell, I've got him at 8, and he came through with a massive season this last year. And it's interesting because since that season 3 years ago with Atlanta, where he kind of popped a little bit, just kind of popped a little, ended up going to the Cardinals and proved that he was a really good player, ends up going to the Packers, again, proves he's a really good player. So much so that they gave him a 5-year, $50 million deal. That's big money for a linebacker. But he's earned it. I'm really happy for him. His career wasn't one that was like given to him on a silver platter or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if you've watched his career, and watched him play, it's been a sight to behold, and it's been really fun, honestly, to see a guy like this. And backtracking, Foye Oluokun as well. These are guys in IDP right now. They're top 8 players at their position, according to me. Like you can check consensus, whatever you want, but these are guys that weren't first round draft picks like Isaiah Simmons, or Jordan Brooks. These are guys that kind of had to work their way into this spot and earn that respect by making the plays. And linebackers called a replaceable position, but honestly, it's, it is and it isn't. It's really the heart and soul of your defense, kind of the way your safeties are. Maybe they'd have a lot of plays, low equity plays, tackles and stuff, but don't let that discount from the fact that they are the ones making those plays. And guys like Devondre Campbell do come through with impact plays. 2 sacks this last year, 2 interceptions, handful of tackles for loss. I just really like the situation for him this year. Nobody really breathing down his neck. They've brought in some young players, some linebackers. But again, when you hand a guy $50 million in a 5-year contract after giving him a prove-it deal, I mean, the guys coming up behind him they aren't going to push him out of the way for a while. So very high on Devondre Campbell this year. No longer going on the sleeper list. Now he's in our top 10. So yeah, be sure to not sleep on Devondre Campbell. He's going to be cheap in your drafts as well. I imagine you're going to be able to get him well past linebacker 8. If you're drafting, you'll probably be able to pull him off. I mean, I don't know if I had to guess, somewhere around linebacker 20, 25. So that's big value. So don't shy away from that. So there's our 3 guys so far. I'm going to quickly run our IDP Index promo, jump in the IDP Index, jump in the Patreon, support the channel, support us. And then we will close this out with our last 2 linebackers in our top 10 list. What's good, IDP Army? It's Jordan Rains, and quickly I want to tell you guys today about the big project I've been working on, the Ultimate IDP Index. The Ultimate IDP Index is the #1 resource for IDP fantasy football players, rookies or veteran, for 2021. Inside, you're going to find contract information, tiered IDP rankings, detailed player production profiles going back to 2017, suggested trade values, and a whole lot more, including unique write-ups, unique videos that will only be available within the Ultimate IDP Index. But to me, probably the most valuable thing is the fact that the trade value estimation tool is going to be updated weekly, so you'll always be aware of what a player is worth in your Dynasty League at any given moment. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for the IDP Army Patreon today. Patreon.com/the IDP Army. Join the Black Ops tier and join the IDP Army today. All right, if you are a Patreon member, thank you. Like I said, this is bread and butter around here now. Fantasy football is a big business. Not a lot of people make good content. Not a lot of people are really trying to do this. We're trying to do this at the IDP Army. So join us, help us scale up this year, help us win you some money, help us continue to grow out fantasy football, IDP fantasy football, etc., etc. So I had a question here I saw in the comments I want to address real fast before we move on. That came in from Vic Z. Says, I found IDP harder and harder to play, to be honest. Very unpredictable. This can be true. Part of that is, predictions come from our ability to take variables and information that we know and say this is what's going to happen in the future. If you've never played IDP before, one, you're playing with players, actual guys whose names, Devondre Campbell, are variables you're not familiar with. Two, their positions you're not overly familiar with. So, linebacker. There's a learning curve. It's gonna be that way the first year, for everyone. And in your first year in fantasy, I'm sure it was like that too. You don't know if your league has, trade limits. You don't know if your league has the right scoring bonuses, etc. There's always a learning curve when you enter something. All right. So my goal, the IDP Army's goal, is to provide enough entertaining, engaging, and education on defensive fantasy football to where that learning curve doesn't become something to where you say, I don't want that. I don't want that. It's something where you're like, I'm up to the challenge. Maybe I'll get in here and slap around these veterans, and win as a rookie, and then I'll rub it in their face. That's what I want to empower you to do. I want you to get in there, make a difference, and win. So if there's any specific questions you have, Vic, please do not hesitate to drop them in the comments of any of the videos that we have on the channel. There's a good Facebook group as well. It's got some good guys in it. Twitter is a decent spot. Follow me at 50 Shades of Drunk. We have an IDP Alpha chat with some good IDP heads in there. We talk offense and defense. That's the other thing, we'll cover all that for you. So would love to help you on a more personal level. Just reach out. I do also want to say, I get flack every now and then from people because I do offense and defensive content. I'm sorry, but I mean, doing IDP it's kind of tough, because a lot of people I play offense too. You know what I'm saying? Like I play underdog. I play in sleeper leagues that are just offense, only like one or two. But I do, most IDP leagues have offensive players in them too. So I don't think it's really fair to just, I'm just trying to say, don't pigeonhole me into just doing IDP stuff for y'all because you don't win a fantasy league just focusing on one position. It's a holistic game. There's different variables. You're building different teams, etc. So, all right, enough of that. Appreciate you guys. Love you. Thanks for sticking around. Subscribe to the channel. Thumbs up if you want to. Join the Patreon. But let's get back to business, okay? We have some more linebackers to talk about. Only two more, all right? I'm interested to see if y'all can guess who the next two linebackers are. I'm just going to bring up the next one, and that is Eric Kendricks. Eric Kendricks was a top linebacker for us last year. Points per game wise, he is an absolute super stud in IDP Fantasy Football year over year. Getting up there in age, 30 years old, only 1 year younger than Bobby Wagner. But as you can see here, the points per snap, an elite .29. That's right on the border of that 3. You can look here at his score, pulled up some of his stats from last season. Tackle numbers, insane. Okay. He gets the sacks, he gets interceptions. He's honestly probably one of the 2 or 3 most underrated, I don't want to say just linebacker, but player, but just linebacker for now in the league. And it's been tough for him because Zimmer, now he's gone from the Vikings, but that defense was like well known for being a good defense for a couple of years. And then it kind of fell off. And when it fell off is when Eric Kendricks kind of stepped up. So I feel like he hasn't gotten the attention or merit that he deserves based on his play. Now, granted, there's somebody out there who's going to be like, well, his PFF grade wasn't that amazing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's great. I'm just saying the guy's out here doing like the Lord's work. 143 tackles. I mean, that's work. 20 impact plays this last year. I mean, that's work. You know what I'm saying? 4 pass deflections, pretty solid number. Points per snap, read that earlier. Let's take a look at his year before. Now, this is the year he was injured, but his points per game, I think he was the 3rd highest points per game for linebackers in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Season cut a little short, injured himself. I believe it was week 12 or 13, but he was having an incredible season. 13 impact plays, 107 total tackles, 6 pass deflections, bringing in 3 of those for interceptions. You love to see it, and I bring him up, and he's a player I don't want people to forget because, again, he's older. He's not shiny. He's not new. He's not Micah Parsons. He's not Jordan Brooks. He's not, who's another? Isaiah Simmons, like a guy that's going to break out. What you get when you get Eric Kendricks is a player that you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a guy who makes tackles. You're going to get a guy who can be an impact player. points per game. He's one of the best linebackers for IDP Fantasy Football. And I have him ranked at linebacker 9. He probably could be higher than that. But honestly, you don't have to draft him that high because, again, he just doesn't have the, I call it brand equity, the individual brand equity of a player like, I don't know, Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard could be in a wheelchair and people are still going to take him top 5 because they know who and what he is and what he's done. The awareness, the brand equity around Eric Kendricks, again, he's been popping off while Kirk Cousins has been there and the defense hasn't been good. It's just so easy to just clown certain teams and just assume everybody on that team is not no good. Eric Kendricks is an incredible linebacker. I have him as my linebacker 9 going into this season. Great player to go trade for in Dynasty, especially at 30 years old. You're going to get a linebacker 1, a player that I'm very, very confident will be a linebacker 1 this year too and has been year over year. And you're not going to have to pay the premium that you would have to pay for a Bobby Wagner or a Jordan Brooks. And you're going to get snap for snap, step for step, probably almost the exact same production. So don't sleep on Eric Kendricks. Linebacker 9 for us right now. Tackle rate, again, pretty good this last year, not like blow your mind. Well, 13.8, that's pretty good. Let's see how he did the year before that. Yeah, the year before that, 2020, he had a 14. So his tackle rate stays high. Points per snap stays high. Just an all-around good player. Linebacker 1, you probably draft him as your linebacker 2. Got a question here. Let's see what it says. Quick question. In a Dynasty IDP, what position will you target in IDP? In a round, will you pull the trigger? It's also super flex. All right, so if it's a Dynasty IDP, I'm assuming it didn't start up. I don't see the word startup, but I'm assuming it's a startup. I'm going to be looking, if it's IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring, my guy, I'm going to be looking in that 8, 9 range. I don't want to leave my draft with a weak core position anywhere, especially if it's like you look at it 2 sides of the coin. Like I don't want to have a strong heads offense in like a really weak tails, But so I don't want to push it off too long, punt too much. But I would say around 7 or 8, I would start looking for one of these linebackers, either the 5 I've talked about in this show or the 5 in the last show. Try to get at least one of them, maybe 2, and you'll be able to wait for some of these guys. Darius Leonard won't be there in round probably 9. But Eric Kendricks probably will. So there you go. That's kind of where I would be looking. Even in super flex, same thing. You're going to punt. You're going to get your core offensive players in, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those guys. And then you're going to start looking and start evaluating value, etc. Check out, our rankings on Patreon. I mean, I keep bringing it up, but we have the best rankings, I think, in the game. I've looked at other people's rankings. I've compared them against, I just compare them, and it's just, I'm obviously biased, but I try to be, I call it subjectively objective as possible because I don't take this lightly that not many people are creating high quality IDP content like this. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to give bad information just to make it look good. I'm actually trying to put forth something, that is going to be useful and valuable for you guys. So, Eric Kendricks, he says, yeah, startup. Yeah. So I would go linebacker first, my guy. Focus on your linebackers. I get 2 of them, maybe 3. If you want to go for a DL player, that is a high equity DL player like a TJ Watt, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, Harold Landry. But even Harold Landry, you can wait. Those 3 players I named up top there, if one of them was available in set 8, 9, 10, I would be interested. But again, your baseline scoring is going to come from your linebackers because they make the most plays. They play the most snaps. They make the most defensive plays, because they get a lot of tackles and they have upside for impact plays. Defensive line players, a lot more upside for impact plays, but even their upside's what? 20, 30, and you're coupling that with 40, 50 tackles. You can get off-ball linebackers that can push into the 30 impact play mark, similar to a defensive line player, but they're stacking that on top of 135 tackles. So it's just a different ball game, and you can compensate for a slight disadvantage at DL later by just stacking up on your offensive players early. So, yeah. Good question, James. Keep them coming if you have any more. But I'll go ahead and finish this out, y'all. Give you my 5th linebacker for this show, my 10th linebacker going into the next season, and that is going to be Blake Martinez. All right, so I'm going to tell you guys, Blake Martinez, last year was his 7th season. Didn't work out well. He got hurt, tore his ACL, I believe, 3 weeks into the season. But before that, 6 years of Iron Man play from Blake Martinez. Played 16 games, all 16 games in 2020. 4 straight seasons with 140 plus combined tackles. That's a huge number for a floor. 21 impact plays this last year or 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, he played through back and ankle injuries. So he shows up and shows out even when he's struggling on a physical level. He's finished as a top 10 linebacker each of the last 4 seasons, excluding last year when he was injured, and was a top 5 linebacker in 2020, 2018, and 2017. Top 5 linebacker. Routinely undervalued. I call him discount Bobby Wagner. There's guys out there in this world that clown me for that. That's fine. I hope they're having fun clowning around out there. But great player. I'll pull up his production profile here, and you can just take a look. So this is last year. Obviously, not many numbers here. Only 142 snaps before the injury occurred. But you can take it back 2 years ago. Again, 151 total tackles. Played a little over 1,000 snaps. Points per snap, again, right on that super elite threshold, 0.29. We'll take it back one more year. Again, another 0.29 points per snap, bottom right-hand corner. Only 13 impact plays, but again, another 155 tackles. Take it back one more year, 2018, 0.28. Again, consistently high points per snap. And the tackle numbers stay high. Impact plays a little lower. He used to play for Green Bay. So one of the things people held against him is that he graded bad on PFF or blah, 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 whatever. It was just very in vogue 2-3 years ago to just dunk all over strong safeties and middle linebackers. It's become a lot less so the last 2 years. But if you were able to snatch a Blake Martinez or even trade for him in Dynasty, I mean, how old is this guy? He is 28 years old. ACL tears are pretty common athletic injury at this point in our lives. I think he's going to be fine this year. I think he's going to come back strong. I think he's going to make a difference. He restructured his deal a little bit to stay with the Giants. And he's going to be good. So I've got him at linebacker 10. I think there's definitely room for him to go up into that top 5 linebacker spot. But coming off the injury, I'm going to make, necessary adjustments to my rankings. So that rounds out our top 10 linebackers here on the IDP Army podcast. I'm going to read them back to you all one more time, the full 10. All right. And then we'll actually have another show with the next 5. Like I said, tomorrow, the next day, soon. All right. It's coming. But our top 10 linebackers as of right now, middle of June, we have Micah Parsons, Roquan Smith, Devin White, Jordan Brooks, Darius Leonard. Then we have Bobby Wagner, Foye Oluokun, Devondre Campbell, Eric Kendricks, and Blake Martinez. That rounds out our top 10 here at the IDP Army for our linebackers going into the 2022 season. And yeah, if you guys, have any questions or comments, please leave them below for us. We appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. Again, join the Patreon, please. Go get some of our merch. Come visit us out in Canton. Join the drafts that we're posting. We're having a good time. We want you guys to have it with us. Football season's right around the corner. Camp News is going to start heating up. It's a good time to be a fantasy football fan. So without further ado, I'm going to sign off. I'll be back soon with, like I said, the next show that I do by myself solo is going to have the 7 sleepers, first 7 sleepers of the year. And I'm going to finish. I might do the next 10 linebackers on the next show to round us out to an even 20. If you want to see more, we have over 200 defensive players in the Ultimate IDP Index on our Patreon. So go get that if you really, really thirsty. So, all right, IDP Army, until next time.